Oh my god, what am I doing? Welcome to my channel, Just Thinking Out Loud. Before I begin, I just want to remind you guys that you can donate at paypal.me/justthinkingoutloud, especially in light of YouTube's recent crackdown on any videos that have what they deem to be controversial topics. This video is about the recent firing of a Google employee, James Damore. He had sent out a memo that discussed reasons why there may not be as many women in tech as people would like to see. First of all, you should read the memo yourself. If you want to just listen to me talk, that's okay, but if you actually want to have an informed opinion, then I would recommend going and reading that memo and forming your own opinion. I'm not sure why the memo was called anti-diversity because it was actually outlining steps that Google could take in order to increase diversity within their companies, just in ways that would not discriminate against others and probably result in illegal activity because they were discriminated based on gender or race or categories that I assume they think are important and would like to see more diversity in. Of course, this was diversity of identifiable traits such as skin color rather than diversity of thought, which is something that the employee thought was important, and he also felt that there had been an atmosphere within Google where people with dissenting opinions were not allowed to speak. I also tried to find the Google Code of Conduct. I couldn't be sure that I found the exact and current version of it, but I think that the employee was being fired because he had been creating a harmful work environment within their company, in their opinion. And specifically, I believe that the issue was that he was perpetuating harmful gender stereotypes. Of course, I think that the company was probably blind to their own hypocrisy in creating a work environment that was harmful for anyone who does agree with the memo. It got even juicier when he spoke about there being secret and unrecorded meetings that involve the company figuring out how to increase diversity within its companies, but in ways which would be illegal because they were discriminating based on certain categories. For some reason, people who want social justice think that discrimination can be fought with more discrimination. People claim to be worried about females being discouraged from going into tech, but I can tell you, as a pretty smart gal myself, I don't want to be hired based on people wanting to increase diversity. I would rather be hired based on my merit. I don't want sympathy handouts. I don't want standards to be lowered for me. I would rather know that I got there on my own merit, even though I don't see as many people there who look like me, than knowing that I got there because people were trying to get me in there just because of how I looked and not because of my actual competence and how much value I could provide to the company. That's also not a really nice feeling and also likely to cause pain to specific employees. I find this stuff really insulting. I really do. I just want to be treated the same, not better, not worse, the same. And I was thinking about this some more, and I think the kind of people who are involved in tech tend to be logical, and I also think that the people who are conservative tend to be ordered and consistent, and they like those things. And so Google might actually be shunning a lot of people who would fit into the category that they want. I seriously hope that the company faces some legal repercussions, both for firing an employee because he gave a dissenting opinion when asked for feedback, and because they may be going in the direction of pursuing illegal activity by discriminating based on whatever they think is important. I saw from some mainstream media news outlet that they said there were no recorded, secretly unrecorded meetings, but if that employee believed that that was the case and he was bringing that up, then they would also be violating their code of conduct. From the version of their code of conduct that I did find, it says, Google prohibits retaliation against any worker here at Google who reports or participates in an investigation of a possible violation of our code. If you believe you are being retaliated against, please contact Ethics and Compliance. Well, you asked for feedback, you got the feedback, and you fired the guy because you didn't like it. Now let's talk about people's feelings. I read the response by the YouTube and Google CEOs. They both talked about how other employees might feel. The Google CEO seemed to think that the memo was talking about people within the company specifically, even though the memo was not talking about people within the company. It was giving evidence why, which was backed up by science, and outlining arguments why things may not be going the way that Google wanted it to go. The memo did not say that the women who worked at Google were not competent. And I actually find this really interesting because when I think about things that I have spoken about, such as race and IQ, I always think to myself, why are you here feeling so personally insulted when the fact that you are even looking into this topic and researching about it, you probably don't have to worry about your IQ. You are exercising your intellect. And also the women who do work at Google, they are probably people who do have the traits that are necessary to be in tech, because he wasn't talking about every single woman out there. But what the Google CEO said was, first, let me say that we strongly support the rights of Googlers to express themselves, and much of what was in that memo is fair to debate, regardless of whether a vast majority of Googlers disagree with it. However, portions of the memo violate our code of conduct and cross the line by advancing harmful gender stereotypes in our workplace. Our job is to build great products for users that make a difference in their lives. To suggest a group of our colleagues have traits that make them less biologically suited to that work is offensive and not okay. He didn't do that. I did not see that happening. He was not talking about those specific workers. Also, it seems more to me like you just can't bring up the topic because none of that memo sounded offensive to me. He goes on to say, it is contrary to our basic values and our code of conduct, which expects each Googler to do their utmost to create a workplace culture that is free of harassment, intimidation, bias, and unlawful discrimination. That's exactly what Mr. Damore was bringing up, that he felt that an atmosphere was being created where there was a lot of bias and intimidation. And you fired the guy. You fired the guy in response to him bringing up his complaint. And he had actually submitted it a month ago. So it's not just about these things that you're talking about, because if it didn't go viral, you wouldn't have cared. Obviously. People just don't know how to react to information that they don't like. Now let's move on to the YouTube CEO. The YouTube CEO talks about feeling pain and recollecting memories where she had felt that she had been discriminated against based on her gender. Now, I do not know the personal history of this woman, and maybe she had been discriminated against based on her gender. However, I would like to say that you cannot just react to these kinds of things based on your own painful memories. In fact, I would say that particularly when we have strong emotions, especially pain, come up, we cannot see clearly regarding these topics. She said, when I saw the memo that circulated last week, I once again felt that pain and empathized with the pain it must have caused others. First of all, you cannot just project your pain onto other people. Not just because you felt pain because of your own personal history means that other people did, including other women. Everybody is unique and they have their own history and biases. You cannot just project it onto the world and assume that everybody else is like you. It's actually the same thing that the Google CEO did, because he spoke on behalf of the women in his company, even though there were probably women in his company who did not feel offended by the memo. Also, if I were there, I wouldn't have felt offended because I've already explored a lot of those feelings inside of me. So there are probably women out there who did not interpret the memo the same way that the YouTube CEO did. She just assumed that everybody else would feel the way that she did, even though not everybody has her history. And you cannot just react to how certain things make you feel and assume that that is truth. Your response is valid, but that does not make it an objective response to what is going on. When people say that there is no data, I think to myself, have you really spent the time to look into this data? And by the way, just putting the word pseudo in front of something does not make it pseudo. Something is no longer that thing when it actually does not have those attributes which are in the definition of that thing. In this case, it concerns science, the scientific method, whether or not the patterns in studies have been replicated, whether or not the studies have been peer-reviewed. And I'm not hearing people talk about those things. I'm just hearing them put the word pseudo in front of it because they don't like how it makes them feel. To the question whether or not this was being discussed about another group or category of people, would it be even valid for consideration? The answer to that question is yes. It is still valid for consideration because it could be true. Just because something hurts your feelings does not mean that those ideas should not be considered and debated. Google is built on science and technology, and the hallmark of science is intellectual curiosity. This kind of response is just killing it. Again, it is especially those topics that stir up emotions in us that we cannot see clearly about. Coincidentally, there are differences between groups when it comes to them having traits that allow them to succeed within a work environment. There is data available on these topics and they should be talked about, especially because you are pursuing goals in order to change the outcomes between these groups. You need to be able to look at that information. You asked for this feedback and you are shunning any workers who agree with his views. Another interesting thing is that they ignore the overrepresentation of certain groups because it's not the groups that they particularly want to focus on. I personally think that this information should be irrelevant and people should just be hired on the basis of merit, and people should actually look at those traits and only try and select for those traits, nothing else. However, when we live in a world that wants equality of outcomes, which I think is okay, you need to figure out why it's not happening. And to do that, you need to be able to look at the research that is out there. If we keep insisting on these equal outcomes between groups, we may end up fighting discrimination with discrimination and trying to create a peaceful environment by creating a harmful environment for specific people within the company. The most ironic thing about the situation was that the memo was a response to a request for feedback and that it had been sent out over a month ago. So when they talk about it being such a big deal because it was perpetuating harmful gender stereotypes, I don't think so. I think it was because they were reacting to the shame that comes with political correctness, because otherwise it would have been okay. I am not sure why people think that simply shunning someone will invalidate an idea. It doesn't. I also wonder what the competent employees within that company who do agree with Mr. Damore are going to feel and whether or not they're going to decide to keep their talent at that company. The last thing I want to say is that if I had a daughter and if she were to come to me and say, "Mom, is it true that there are biological reasons why there are fewer women in tech and leadership?" By the way, I work in a male-dominated industry, just FYI to people. First of all, I would be confident that if these things were true, her ego wouldn't be just shattered because I have instilled in her a sense of purpose and a sense of self. I'm never sure what word to use here, but if she wants to pursue something, then she should go out there and get it. However, this is just a reason why not everybody might want to do the things she wants to do or might not be as good at the things that she is good at. Second of all, I would ask her, well, how do you find out if something is true? How do you differentiate between fact and opinion? What do you do if the facts hurt your feelings? What do you do if they are lies and it does hurt your feelings? And what do you do if it's actually a gray, messy area, but you still have to go out into the world and interact with people and do the things you want to do in life? The last thing in that code of conduct that I read was, and remember, don't be evil. And if you see something that you think isn't right, speak up. That's exactly what he did, and you fired him. So that's what I think about what happened. Thank you for watching. Have a beautiful and wonderful and productive and purposeful day. I will talk to you soon. Goodbye.